Oh my gosh, we weren't expecting any company! Well, while you're here, let me tell you that today's show is brought to you by the extremely kind donations by our donors over at Patreon. Andrew, tell our company a little bit about Patreon and what it is.
Patreon is where you can go if you'd like to donate to us to give us a little bit of financial support, and also you receive commentaries, after parties for a few episodes. There's other stuff as well, I think. I can't quite remember. You can request episodes. I always forget what our perks are. But we got some good ones.
If you donate $20 per episode, you can request an episode. It's great.
I think the best one, though, is the commentaries, because we put a ton of those out. And we just got done with, Moulin Rouge or something like that, and I think we have a few more plans.
Yeah, Andrew loved it.
It was funny.
But tell us who our patrons are.
Our current patrons, which this list just keeps getting longer, my goodness. Our current patrons are Stephanie L., Terry Nealman, Max Lunig. Did they start again?
Oh, you're fine. Okay.
Our current patrons are Stephanie L., Terry Needleman, Max Lunig, Benjamin Lear, Lily Ackles, Mackenzie Horner, John Donna, Taryn the Duck, Jess Lightning, Ewan Cassidy, Haley McDonald, Taskir, Fire September, Mina Maniri, Monica Thoreau, Brent Black, Haley Murray, Allison Wonderland, B-Way Flicks, Nathaniel Stacy Coombe, Joseph Evans Green, Luna Rocks 222, Iriagel Drouet Whiter, Carrie Ahern, Christine Mambadel, Ben Packard, Mezzanine Theater Diary, Mary Lou Choquette, Anne Nunnally, Cole Birchfield, Sam Caulfield, John Vinels, and Holy Sticality.
These folks give us a little extra financial support that helps us keep the lights on here at Musicals with Cheese. If you would like to help them, if you would like to join them and help supporting us and get tons of fun perks such as patron-only commentaries, our episodes a day early, or even earlier, come join us over at Patreon. All right, Andrew, are you ready to get started with the show?
Oh, I'm ready.
Hello, I'm Jesse McAnally.
And I'm Andrew DeWolf.
And welcome to Musicals with Cheese, a podcast where I try to get Andrew to like musical theater. How are you doing today, Andrew?
Well, it's my birthday today, and
how old are you turning?
35.
How many times do you turn 35?
At least 3, usually. I feel like most people turn 35 3 times, right? How many times do you turn 35?
I mean, when I first turned 35, oh my gosh, it was a big deal. Now it's just passé.
It's just like I'm turning 35 again. Like, my goodness. Here we go.
Here we go, 35 once again.
But this time I decided that I'm not even going to show up for the birthday party. I'm just not going.
But how do you feel about marriage? I don't know how that connects, but tell me how you feel about marriage.
Anyway, how's your sex life?
that kind of is this musical. Like, it's my birthday. Anyway, how's your sex life?
Oh, you know I can't talk about that, Johnny.
Company!
Your chimes, in comes company. No strings, good times, room hums company. Late nights, quick bites, party games, deep talks, long walks, telephone calls. Thoughts shared, souls bared, private names, all those photos up on the walls. With love, filling the days. With love, 70 ways to Bobby with love from all those good and crazy people, my friends.
Company is a 1970 musical comedy with music and lyrics by Stephen Sondheim and a book by George Firth. The original production was nominated for a record-setting 14 Tony Awards and won 6. Originally titled Threes, its plot revolved around Bobby Robert, a single man unable to commit fully to a steady relationship, let alone marriage, the 5 unmarried couples who are his best friends and his 3 girlfriends. Unlike most book musicals, which follow a clearly delineated plot, Company is a concept musical, composed of short vignettes, presented in no particular chronological order, linked by a celebration of Robert's 35th birthday. Company was among the first musicals to deal with adult themes and relationships. As Sondheim put it, Broadway theater has been for many years supported by upper middle class people with upper middle class problems. These people really want to escape that world, and when they go to the theater, and then here we are with company talking about how we're going to bring it right back in their faces.
Oh, it's so rebellious. It's such a rebellious musical.
How's my Sondheim impression?
I honestly don't know. I don't think I've ever heard the man talk.
You've never heard Stephen Sondheim talk?
I don't think
We've
so.
talked about him for probably, 84, 85 episodes, and you don't have any clue what he sounds like.
No idea what he sounds like, no.
Holy shit. That is literally the most mind-blowing thing about this entire endeavor since day one.
I just don't really care what he has to say. He writes some good music.
You'd much rather hear him write.
I just want to hear him write. I don't want to hear what he has to say.
I want to hear what his quill puts down, not the words that comes from his lips.
Like, come on.
All right, Andrew, what is your initial thoughts on Company? Because I know what they are and they're shit, so go and tell me.
Okay. The music is really good. Extremely strong all the way through. There is no story, though, really. And what story there is confusing, because if you try to actually read this as a story, it's like there's like time travel and stuff going on, and it's like Groundhog Day. It's like there's no actual story, though. It's not intended that way. So that's kind of lame. And also, the skits aren't that funny, although I think that kind of depends on the version you're watching, because I think the direction of this musical is very influential on how well it does comedy-wise.
So let me contextualize this for our audience and let them be clear that there may be spoilers to things that they might not know about yet.
Oh yeah, there are spoilers for the new version, I think, because we watched that.
Yeah, the new version with Katrina Lenk. Andrew and I were able to watch that before the world shut down, and now we're gonna talk about that. So we might have mild spoilers about that, but the versions that Andrew has seen is the recent 2020 version with Katrina Lenk,
Yep.
as well as the 2006 production with Raul Esparza.
Yes.
He did not watch the not very good Neil Patrick Harris version in 2011. I kept that from him because I did not want him to watch something bad, but apparently he thought he watched something bad anyway. So
I didn't think it was that bad. It's not my cup of tea, that's for sure.
No, what do you have against the vignettes? Because I enjoy this musical a lot. I thoroughly enjoy it. Like, when I see it performed, I enjoy every song number, and I enjoy every scene that sets up those song numbers.
Okay, well, the first one I watched was the 2006 one, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And the tone of that is like being at a funeral. Everyone is dressed in black, like the entire show, and the lead does nothing but sit silently and watch as like nightmare scenarios of people's marriages unfold in front of him, and he just sits there completely silent, like, I don't want to say anything because, oh my god, these people are dying on the inside, and he's attending a funeral for them.
A funeral for their marriages, more or less.
Yeah. And it's not funny. None of the jokes landed for me, other than like close-ups on the main character's face, because the version we watched like did close-ups occasionally, I think, and it just like zooms in on his face, and he's just like, "Get me out." And that's like the only funny part.
And I think that's great, but like a lot of his line delivery is like, I want to ask for another bourbon, but I'm terrified.
Well, yeah, and it's like, I think he actually is terrified. It's not like a joke line. He's like genuinely scared that if he asks for a bourbon, something bad is going to happen.
All right, Andrew, I'm not expecting to remember all of them, but off the top of your head, what was your favorite and least favorite skits throughout the show?
Okay, are we talking only about the 2006 one?
We're talking just in general about the show as a piece of text.
Okay, best skits are the lead. I guess I have to say Bobby, but Robert/Bobby.
Well, he's Bobby in both. They call him Bobby more often than anything else.
Okay, well, he doesn't talk in the 2006 one like at all, so it's kind of weird. But like, okay, the song about his girlfriends / her boyfriends, I think, is my favorite part.
You could drive a person crazy.
Yeah. I think that's what it's called, and it's the three of his love interests
spouses
singing, and that's fun. I don't think I like any of the other couples because they're all so they don't have chemistry because they're not supposed to have chemistry, and it's almost like a sitcom level like relationship drama. It's dumb. It's like these two people could not be together. And I guess the point of the show is that they can't, but it's like, how do they even get to this point in the first place is the question.
Well, the thing is, the show makes the argument that it's worth it. Like, that is what being alive at the end is basically saying.
Yeah. Although, I don't know. There's some interpretations I have of the ending, and I'm not really sure how you're supposed to interpret it. But my
we'll
interpretation
go into that later.
My interpretation, I think we go into it now because I want to.
Fine.
My interpretation
Whatever.
of it is that Bobby gives up and doesn't want any part of it. And that's why he doesn't show up for the party, is because he's like, marriage sucks and I don't want any part of this, and he just leaves and never comes back.
Well, funny you should mention that. All right, so let me tell you a thing real quick.
Sure.
This is gonna be a longer story, but it ties together, I promise. So Sondheim at this point was a lifelong bachelor. He had never dated, he had never married. He knows nothing about marriage. So what does he do? Well, I actually disagree. I think that the songs are the only thing that actually understands about things about marriage, whereas the actual book itself feels a little bit more sitcom-y and a little less serious about marriage.
Okay, that might make sense.
Yes. So he sits down with his friend, Mary Rogers, who is also the writer of Freaky Friday, and yeah, just another fun thing to...
Which one?
The original book that the movies are based on.
Oh, okay.
So he sits down with her and asks her, what was your marriages like? What would you tell me about marriages? And apparently he sat down like it was an actual lecture, taking notes about like what being married was like and writing down specific phrases and all that, because she had been married, divorced several times. And at the end of all this, Stephen Sondheim writes a song called Happily Ever After. And I kind of it was the original position of being alive in this musical. The director, Harold Prince, who we've spoken about a bunch, thought it was too pessimistic. Basically, this says that wedding or being married is bad.
Feeling, but why should you try? Why not? Sure, feel a little lonely, but fly. Why not fly with no one to hold you too close, no one to hurt you too deep, no one to love you too hard? Happily ever after. No one you have to know well, no one you have to show how, no one you have to allow the things you'd never allow. That's happily ever after, ever, ever, ever after, for now.
And then Hal Prince was like, I hate this. This is way too pessimistic, and we don't want to have that message. And Sondheim was like, that is what I've gotten as a takeaway from all the information we've got in these skits and what I've learned, that it's better to be alone than try to get married and try. And so he's like, no, you need to write a new song. And Sondheim basically took that same message of like someone to hold you too close and it's better to keep going, and kept it and wrote Being Alive, but interjected the married couples like, that's, you gotta look at it harder, Bobby, look harder. And that is what made that scene a little bit more ambiguous. So my thought is Sondheim agrees with you.
Yeah, and my other thought is that the married couples in this are they're obviously not real people, and they're not really even real. They're not even really real characters. They almost like are representations of like, this is what your life is like if you follow society's goal of get married. Like, it's like they are society, and them interjecting into being alive, I think even strengthens the message that he originally has, in that, no, don't listen to these. Don't listen to these people, because these people, as we have seen in the skits prior, are obviously wrong. So anything they have to say on this subject is them trying to force you into their lifestyle, which is clearly bad. So basically, it almost enforces Robert's decision to just, I'm gonna not do this.
But the Act 2 closer, which was not always the Act 2 closer, it was originally like a cut song from the show, but is now reintroduced, and it's called Marry Me a Little, which is, at the end of Act 1, his I Want song, which is weird for one, but I think that is a dream that most people, in theory, have, which is marry me a little, love me just enough, hug but not too tightly, think but not too rough, like play but not too rough. And that is a good idea for what most people want in marriage. Like, I want all this, but on my terms.
Yeah. And
the second act is basically him figuring out what his terms are, or her figuring out what her terms are.
Yeah. Well, so I think in the 2006 version especially, his terms are, he doesn't want any of it and he's done. Because the way his friends treat him not showing up at the party is so like mean-spirited, and like, he's abandoned us. He doesn't want anything to do with marriage anymore. He's wrong. He's gone. It's so mean how they talk about it. So I think he's realized that his terms are, I want none of it, the end.
Or, I'm going to make this for myself without having to run it by y'all.
Yeah.
It's not your job to have an opinion in what I do with my life.
Yeah. And I like...
Can I talk?
I actually like that message because, I mean, if we look at, like, the long-term standard of, hey, you need to get married, and that means that you guys are, like, forever friends, and it's just, like, it's not realistic. Like, people need space, you know? You can't just be with somebody every day, all day, lovey, 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 all the time, because you will turn into these crazy people that can't stand to even look at each other.
They're good and crazy people. His friends. They're good and crazy people. His married friends.
Yeah.
And that's what it's all about, isn't it? That's what it's really about.
Also, who is he friends with? Is he friends with the guys and, like, he just happens to know the girls? Or, like, usually you're not friends with both sides of a couple. At least not in every case.
I think in most cases he kind of knew both of them, and there's one he's closer with. What's his name? The Sorry Grateful guy, Harry, I believe.
Yeah.
I feel like he's closer with Harry, and I feel like Sorry Grateful is probably the song that understands relationships the most, or at least being married the most.
Yeah.
Like, that and the little things you do together feel hand in hand with, this is what it's like to be married. Like, it's hard, yeah, but, you know, it's worth it in the end, and you feel like your life is now attached to this person, and so on and so forth. But also, you kind of miss your freedom, so to say, at least that far.
Marry me a little, love me just enough, cry but not too often, play but not too rough, keep a tender distance so we'll both be free. That's the way it ought to be. I'm ready, marry me a little, do it with a will, make a few demands I'm able to fulfill, want me more than others, not exclusively. That's the way it ought to be. I'm ready now. You can be my best friend.
to talk to you a little bit about the new production and the different interpretation of that production.
Yeah, sure.
So framing is a very important thing with this new production, and it framed it in a very different way for me. So when Bobby is 35, unmarried, and surrounded by married friends, and it's a guy, it has one connotation of like, oh, bachelor on the town and all that. Whereas if it's a woman, there is more of a pressure to get married, have children, breed, all that nonsense. Or at least by our own cultures, like expectations, cultural expectations.
I mean, okay, so I think the age is a very important aspect, because I think either way, that same pressure exists for either gender. Because by the time you are 35, people expect you to be married. Like a 20-something guy, I would agree. They're like, oh, whatever, you're still hanging around. But like, I think that's the reason why it takes place on this 35th birthday, because it's like, well, you're getting to the point where it's not okay for you to be a bachelor anymore. You're supposed to have a family.
I mean, I get what you're saying, but I think it's more okay in our cultural mindset for a guy to be a bachelor at 35 than it is for a woman, because
it might be more okay.
So women have that biological clock that everyone keeps tending to look at, like, you're not going to be young forever, and you got to shoot out kids one day.
Yeah, the Catholics have driven that into us. So
I know, honestly. So it
Happy
does
Easter,
have a
everyone.
completely different feel. It does have a completely different feel there.
Yeah.
With it as a woman as the main character. And the sexuality of Bobby, where he just has banged a lot of people, there is a different connotation with a guy having sex with people pretty freely and a woman having sex with people pretty freely.
I thought he only really went out with 3 people. Isn't that the whole point of that one song?
He did, but then you have Barcelona, where he's just like simultaneously trying to get her to stay, but also wants her to leave.
Well, yeah, but that's just because he doesn't know if he wants the commitment aspect of this.
But I'm questioning framing. Do you think that what do you think is Bobby's actual goals in the song Barcelona?
Well, they don't know. I think it's kind of like yeah, you can leave, and I think I want you to leave, but also I don't want you to leave, but really I don't know if I don't want you to leave. That was my interpretation. And then when they finally made the decision, they were like, shit, I did want them to leave.
Is Bobby a character or a conduit? I think is my next question.
He's totally a conduit. He's Stephen Sondheim.
I don't think he is, though. Stephen Sondheim isn't this guy. He's literally the opposite of this guy. This isn't like a Jason Robert Brown musical where you can literally just see the composer implanting themselves onto this.
Okay. Well, Robert is the audience. Unless they're married. In which case, the married couple will go, oh, I'm one of these other guys.
The thing is, Robert starts to get tempted in Act 2 into the marriage side.
Yes.
Especially seen during the side-by-side song, where they all have their moments together, the couples, and then he's left on his own to not have a solo or representative next to him. Like, they always have each other, he doesn't.
Yeah.
So, I'm curious, what do you think his trajectory in this story is? Like, from point A to point B to point C, what is his arc?
I don't know if he has a direct arc. I mean, at the start, he seems like he wants to get married, or at least he plays lip service to that because everyone around him wants to hear that. And then in the middle, he's like, yeah, I think I definitely do want to get married. And then at the end, he's like, nah. And I think that's the arc.
And do you think that's a happy ending, to decide to not want to get married?
I think...
What would you do in Bobby's position?
If I lived in this world where every relationship is a sitcom from the 50s, yeah, I think he made the right choice. Like, if I lived in the world where every relationship turns into the husband wishing the wife was dead and vice versa, then yeah, I definitely would live in the world and say, yeah, no, I want to be single. I don't really want to deal with karate fighting my spouse. You know?
But then again, you also have the subplot, which I think is more important than people give it credit for, where you have the married couple that's divorcing. They get divorced, they still live together, and then they find out they're happier after they've divorced one another.
Which I think actually enforces what I think is the real message of this, and that's that the societal pressure around marriage is what's really wrong with these marriages. Because the second that they don't have the title married around them living together and them doing everything together and them loving each other, now all of a sudden they're fine and it doesn't matter. So it wasn't even that their couple doesn't work, it's that having the title married ruined their relationship. And maybe that's the real message here.
All right. You got the three ladies that are in Bobby's life. The three single ladies that sing You Could Drive a Person Crazy. Who would you choose?
Yep. I mean, I think the one that he's not allowed to choose is the one that you'd want to choose. The
Why,
one that
though?
is getting married to the other guy, and because clearly that's the one that he actually likes. The other one is like really overly dumb, and then the other one is like weird.
I like the weird one. I think I would have chosen the weird one.
Yeah, I know, you're like a SoundCloud rapper who needs his goth GF, but I'm not.
But they didn't play him that way when he was played by a man.
They did, though. He was like a weird vegan hipster thing.
I mean, yeah, that's different than goth.
I would say the time period changes it. I would say in 2020 that stereotype is the 2006 goth stereotype. They're like equivalents. It's the counterculture. In the early 2000s, the counterculture was goth. Nowadays, the counterculture is that weird hipster.
And in the 70s when this came out, it was probably the weird hippie.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Do you think any of these marriages will work out? And if so, which one do you think is most likely to work out?
I think the only one that the musical wants us to think will work out is the one where they got divorced.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm gonna disagree with you here.
Okay, the other ones might stay together because, I mean, they don't want to piss off their friends by getting divorced, but their relationships have already failed. They are already not good together. I mean, they are... The first one we meet is literally beating each other up by the end of the scene.
Yes.
Like, that is a failed relationship. That is failed entirely. Does not work.
But the thing is, it doesn't just jump out of nowhere. That is a build where they are both fighting, like, within vocal length. Because he's fighting about being an alcoholic, she's fighting about, like, being on a diet, and it just builds and builds until they need to have that release, whether it be sexual, violent, or whatever, and they have it as the jujitsu.
Exactly. Whatever. They are fighting from the moment we meet them. In front of their friend. They have a friend over, and the first thing they do is start fighting with each other. That is a failed relationship. There is absolutely no way they can get through that without therapy.
Can I make the argument that I think Amy and Paul are gonna make it?
Which ones were those ones? That's the one where they don't want to get married?
Yeah, Not Getting Married Today song. Because Paul, I think, understands Amy and is willing to work with her and is actually in love with her. Whereas Amy just doesn't know what she wants, and when she finally... And it takes Bobby being there to be like, why don't you just marry me? Fuck it, let's get it over with.
Yeah.
For her to be like, I actually know what I want, and she has probably the most poignant line in the show, which is, you want to marry somebody, not just somebody. Which is, like, basically the trigger that makes Robert go into, like, oh yeah, I want to be married a little, and triggers marry me a little.
Yeah, that one might work, but honestly, we don't have enough information about it to really know.
Mm-hmm. Final question before we go into mid-show and then the songs. What do you think of Joanne as a character, the older woman with, like, a third husband and all that?
Awful.
Okay, I want some elaboration, please.
Okay, all of the advice she's giving is, like, terrible. Like, the Little Things You Do Together song is, like, the most passive-aggressive, like, horrible thing to say to somebody. It's like...
Is anything jumping out in your mind as an example?
Well, just the entire song. I mean, I don't have, like, an exact line, but the entire song is just little quips about, like, oh, this is one thing that you do when you're married that makes you really hate the other person. Here's another thing that you do, and that really makes you, oh, wow, what a joy. Like, she's
riding
awful.
on your horse together, getting a divorce together. That makes perfect relationships.
Yeah, she's just awful. She's a terrible... And I think that she's like almost the opposite of Robert, whereas she has been married too much and now is jaded. And I think Robert's decision at the end is almost like to make sure he never becomes her. I don't know.
I mean, the thing is, I don't think she gives bad advice in the end when it counts. Because Ladies Who Lunch, which is probably one of the greatest, like, solo numbers in musical theater history, and we'll talk about that more, I think she gives proper advice, like, in that conversation there, where she's like, you know what, if it doesn't matter, fuck it, let's do this. I'll take care of you. And then he finally has the bulb in his head, which is like, who will I take care of then? Where you finally figure out what he wants. I think it's the first time he clearly knows what he wants.
To take care of himself.
To take care of others, honestly. Like, whether they're married or not, he doesn't really care about... It's not about being married, it's about who I care about.
It's about friends.
I think it's... Honestly, it kind of is.
Look, this whole show is just trying to tear down the institution of marriage that has been instilled by religion. This is a rebellious...
And the government.
It's a rebellious musical. And I agree. Let's tear it down.
Everyone who wants... You and your bro want to go and buy a house together, and when you die, give him all his shit? Fine, do it.
What the hell do we need marriage for anyways? What's the point?
I love you so much, I want to get the government involved.
Yeah, it's like, what the hell's even the point? It's like, why can't you...
What do you get for it? What do you get?
A tax break.
Yeah, basically.
You want to get married, Jess?
You can... Let's do it, dude.
We could have a tax break, like a crazy tax break. Imagine if we got married and we literally had never met each other at all.
There's a TV show that's called 90 Day Fiancé or something like that.
Nice. I would totally
Mormons do it a lot. Dude, if you want to get married, will you marry me?
Yeah, dude. You are a Mormon, right?
Yeah, dude.
If I find out you're not wearing your underwear right now, I'm about to lose it. Did you voted for Mitt Romney, right? Tell me. Tell me.
I put him as a write-in for every election.
Excellent.
Since then.
Me too.
That's what hashtag Me Too is really about, voting for Mitt Romney.
Hashtag I also voted for Mitt Romney. Wasn't there like some fast food restaurant that misunderstood the Me Too thing? And they like made an advertisement tweet about it and it's like, guys, not really.
It seems like a very Chick-fil-A thing to do.
Extremely Chick-fil-A.
Dude, that's so Chick-fil-A. Alright, before we go into the mid-show, there's been talk over the years about this being turned into a movie. Do you think this could ever work as like an actual movie?
I mean, no. It would work as like a filmed version of the musical, but there's no plot, and movies need a plot.
No, they don't.
Yeah, they do.
Ever watch a David Lynch film?
I've experienced a David Lynch film, but I've never really watched one.
Blue Velvet. I don't think that movie has a plot.
Yeah. Doesn't make it good. I think it would, I feel like it'd be dated as well. It needs some updates.
Yeah. I mean, of course it would. But how do you think that the new 2020 production updates it?
I don't think it updates it enough. Like, yeah, they gender swap everybody and they add in like a overtly gay marriage and
they add texting and all that to the lyrics as well.
And it's like, yeah, that's all great, but like, come on, the couple, like, the dynamics just still feel dated. It feels like this is like a 1970s sitcom where nobody can get along, and it's like, come on, we've moved past this in writing, I feel like.
Another scene skit that I feel is really, really dated and really doesn't fit in modern like stagecraft as well as just modern like entertainment is the weed scene where they all just get high and it's really funny because they're high.
Oh, I think they made it actually even worse, and they made it feel more dated in the 2020 version.
Okay, explain that to me, please, please.
I don't know who the guy was, but it was like James Corden pretending to be high. It's like, my God, like, can you overact it even more, please? It's like bad. It's really bad.
Hey guys, sorry to interrupt you in the middle of the show, but we've got a shill at you. Today's show is brought to you by the extremely kind donations by our donors over at Patreon. Our current donors are Stephanie L., Terry Needleman, Max Lunig, Benjamin Lehrer, Lily Ackles, Mackenzie Horner, John Donna, Taryn the Duck, Jess Lightning, Ewan Cassidy, Haley McDonald, Taskier, Fire September, Mina Maniri, Monica Thoreau, Brent Black, we love you, Brent, Haley Murray, our favorite Haley, Allison Wonderland, B-Way Flicks, Nathaniel, Stacy Coombe, Joseph Evans Green, Lunarox222, Irregale, Drew A. Whiter, Carrie Ahern, Christine Malmedel, Ben Packard, Mezzanine Theater Diary, Mary Lou Choquette, Ann Nunnally, Cole Birchfield, Sam Caulfield, John Vanales, Holly Stisticality. Did I do it right?
I just want to say that Haley McDonald is my favorite Haley. I don't care what you say about Haley Murray.
Can we please make our Haleys fight? Haley Murray versus Haley McDonald?
I'm putting money on McDonald.
Haley McDonald versus Haley Murray. Get your tickets here tonight, folks. I thought we only had one Haley, and I get them confused. And I'm also... This episode's going a lot longer, and I might be more drunk than expected. But these folks give us a little extra financial support that helps us keep the lights on here at Musicals with Cheese. If you would like to join them in supporting us and get tons of fun perks such as Patreon-only commentaries, our episodes a day early or even earlier, go and join us over at Patreon.
Oh, yeah.
All right, let's get back to the show.
Isn't it warm? Isn't it rosy? Side by side.
She's such a sweetheart.
By side.
Isn't she a sweetheart?
Ports in a storm, comfy and cozy. Side by side.
She never loses her cool.
By side.
I envy that.
Everything shines. How sweet. Side by side.
We're just so fond of her.
By side. Parallel lines who meet.
Love her. Can't get enough of her.
Everyone winks. Nobody.
All right.
So the 2020
2020
production. Let's go.
All right. Good changes. Let's start with that. Positive changes. It's way more lively. Some of the jokes actually land a little bit better just because I don't feel dead inside while I'm watching it. Because it doesn't feel like I'm attending a funeral. There's like colors on the screen. Like on stage, they're like bright colors. And it's like, oh my goodness.
It's very neon. I think the best description is like very bright neon colors.
Honestly, I would love to see it where like just all the couples have their own color schemes and it's all like very bright colors. I feel like that would honestly improve this show a lot. Because this show is not a serious show at all. And I feel like trying to take it seriously like ruins it.
What do you think of the transitions between the scenes because those are probably the most like theatrical the show gets?
Like, how do you mean?
Like at the very beginning when the like stage starts falling through and she crawls through a manhole and then she ends up just on the terrace of someone else's apartment.
That kind of like it's almost like they're trying to make the plot make sense. Like that the whole Groundhog Day style whatever the hell's going on. It's whatever. I mean, it's fine. It's not necessary. I don't dislike it.
I thought it looked cool.
Yeah.
Like
it adds a little
the letters that are going through the stage and all that. It shows
that the director was like, man, let's not just have 8 people standing on the stage doing nothing.
And this is just a Jess personal thing. I love Bobby's outfit. Like, I love jumpsuits in general and the jumpsuits with the white shoes. It was a great way to make her stand out from all the couples.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. What else did you like about it?
I think that the choreography was a lot better. Like, a lot better. There was, like, better dancing overall.
More dancing.
Much
I don't
more
think there was any dancing because they had, like, violins and shit. They had to
Yeah,
carry
it was
around.
like, again, the 2006 version is like attending a funeral.
I kind of like that, though. I personally prefer the 2006 production because it is a little bit more stripped down.
It fits the music better because Stephen Sondheim's music is always very serious. I don't think he knows how to write a comedic
It's just
song.
very difficult. Well, I disagree because we still have Not Getting Married Today to talk about.
I wouldn't say that that's a funny song, though, to be honest.
I disagree wholeheartedly.
I didn't laugh a single time on either version for that song.
Listen, everybody, look, I don't know what you're waiting for. A wedding, what's a wedding? It's a prehistoric ritual where everybody promises fidelity forever, which is maybe the most horrifying word I've ever heard, and which is followed by a honeymoon where suddenly you realize you settled with it, not want to kill me, which you should. So listen, thanks a bunch, but I'm not getting married. Go have lunch, because I'm not getting married. You've been grand, but I'm not getting married. Don't just stand there, I'm not getting married. And don't tell Paul, but I'm not getting married today. So can't you go? Why is nobody listening? Goodbye, go and cry at another person's wake. If you're quick for a kick, you could pick up a christening. But please, on my knees, there's a human life at stake. Listen, everybody, I'm afraid you didn't hear, or do you want to see a crazy lady fall apart in front of you? Is it only Paul who may be ruining his life? You know, we'll both of us be losing our identities. I telephoned my analyst about it, and he said to see him Monday, but by Monday I'll be floating in the Hudson with the other garbage. I'm not well. You've been swell, but I'm not getting married. Clear the hall, because I'm not getting married. Thank you all, but I'm not getting married. And don't tell Paul, but I'm not getting married today.
You're just fucking lame, that's why.
I don't know. I think a comedic song needs to be a little bit more bouncy than Sondheim ever writes.
I think Sondheim tends to write more bouncy than most people.
Maybe in a different sense that I'm thinking. You have to. It has to be like, I don't know. I'm trying to describe what I want to say, but his songs always have this certain amount of self-seriousness to them, where they can't really joke. There's no comedic value to it, other than the lyrics.
I think
the lyrics can be very funny, but the music never sounds funny.
I mean, things like A Little Priest, like, that shit's hilarious.
Lyrically.
From Sweeney Todd.
Lyrically, that song is hilarious. Put different lyrics into that, I don't think it'd be very funny.
I mean, musically, do you feel like the music really affects whether or not you're laughing?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, I want you to explain this, because I am very lyrically based, and I know you're more musically based.
Okay, well, I mean, as a filmmaker, I think you should know that music is like half of the show. If you made a comedy and scored it with the score of a drama, it's not funny. Most of the jokes will no longer land because
I 100% disagree.
Unless the joke is that it's scored as a drama. Then maybe yes. Okay. Well, now we're taking it seriously.
The more serious you take a situation, the more funny things are. The ridiculousness stands out more when you take it seriously.
Yes and no. If the joke is that the characters are taking something seriously that really they shouldn't be taking seriously, or that we know is kind of more absurd, then yes. If the characters are taking something seriously, but the joke is supposed to be that it's like ridiculous, I don't know. You can't do that. It doesn't make sense. Like, if the characters are not serious, and the joke is that the characters are not serious, and then the music is serious, it doesn't make sense.
I disagree. I feel like in order to have good comedy, the characters need to take this thing seriously.
But they don't take it seriously in this. What I'm saying is that these characters are ridiculous. We have a scene where the characters are getting high and, like, giggling at bullshit. And it's like, that is, the characters are supposed to be funny. That is not the characters are taking something seriously that isn't. We have a scene where people are doing karate to each other. Like, this is like SpongeBob music, you know? Like, that would make that funny. This is not like...
Well, there is no music in that scene, but what immediately follows is the little things that you do together, which is like, ba-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da, ba-ba-ba-ba. It's really bouncy. What the fuck are you talking about?
The Little Things You Do Together is an incredibly cynical song, which is not at all related to the...
You saying cynical things can't be funny?
I'm saying...
And bouncy and happy?
I'm saying that the scene that was prior to it was not funny because it was cynical. The scene prior to it was funny because it was slapstick. It's two different types of comedy that don't mix. Slapstick is not cynical. And if you take the previous scene and put it and look at it with a cynical lens, it's not funny at all. It's awkward and weird. And it's like, okay, this isn't funny. Like, what is, like, these two people should not be near each other. They need a restraining order. If you look at it like a slapstick, like, oh, this is ridiculous and they're beating each other up, it's like, okay, that's hilarious, but you need, like, slapstick music to go with that.
I think that you're just reading far too deep into this. I think Sondheim's comedy sense is much more word-based.
Absolutely,
like,
I agree.
I think
I'm saying his music
you do
doesn't
together
fit.
is hilarious.
I think it is a funny song. I'm saying it doesn't fit with the previous scene. And musically, it's not funny. It's lyrically funny.
I've never heard a song like instrumental and been like, oh, that's fucking hilarious.
You need to listen to more music then. I've heard plenty of songs that literally the music alone will make me laugh. There's like jazz songs where like they'll just be doing something and then like they stop and the trumpet just goes like, woo! And it's like, oh my God, that's fucking hilarious. Like, there is funny music. And if you haven't heard funny music, then you need to listen to more music because there is funny music.
If you say so. But back to the 2020 production, what do you think that production does worse than the 2006 production?
Does worse?
Like, I'm very curious as to your thought of the gender change, because
I don't really care.
One thing that bothers...
It doesn't make a difference for me.
It makes a difference to me in one specific way.
Okay. Well, the range of the vocals, it makes a difference, which I think is odd.
I don't mind that. It sounds the same to me. Because Bobby doesn't sing much, and I've heard Being Alive and Marry Me a Little sung so many times by women that it literally is like, oh, okay, whatever.
Well, you got like now all the side relationships are all men, so they're singing that in a lower register. And
okay, so let me frame it like this. Stephen Sondheim has said that Bobby must always be a heterosexual. They can be a man or a woman, but a heterosexual.
Okay.
And that bothers me. That bothers me a lot.
Why?
Because in a situation like this, I feel it ruins the scene with Joanne a lot when you make Bobby strictly a heterosexual. Because you have the scene in the original version where she's like, why don't you and I just go, and I'll take care of you, and like, you feel the connection between Joanne and Bobby, right?
Yeah.
And then in this new version, you have her go to Bobby and being like, my husband, why don't you just take him? He will treat you right.
Yeah, which is weird. It's like, really? You're just gonna...
It's bad. It's actively bad. This is, as far as this musical is concerned, the climax of the story.
Why didn't they just make the Joanne character a man?
That is another question, because they wanted Patti LuPone so much, who plays Joanne in the new Broadway production, and as well as the West End production.
Yeah, so that's just...
It's bad. It's really bad, and it ruins that entire last bit. Imagine how much that would have hit home if she's like, you know what? There is another option. You can come with me. I am a woman. That is the one option you have not even thought of in this entire musical. Like, you've always thought about these men and all these other people in your life.
The other thing is that in the 2006 version, there is that, like, odd gay panic scene.
Yeah. Yes. And Bobby admits to, like, having stuff with dudes.
Yeah, so, like, why couldn't you do that here? This is like, you even did it in that version.
So fucking much. It's what ruins what I otherwise think is a really good new production of Company.
I mean, I think the good stuff kind of outweighs that, in my opinion, because the fact that it feels more lively makes it a lot more watchable for me. The dance numbers are fun. I like the new, like, hipster type guy more than I liked the goth girl. I don't know.
I mean, I get what you're saying, but I am very big on the actual content and what it says, and you're more about the overall experience.
Yeah, which is why these type of musicals are not really my favorite. I like the big, like, productions that are like...
You like Beetlejuice. You really want everything to either be Beetlejuice or Hello Dolly.
I like Les Mis, like, is like a big, like, you know, oh man, there's this plot, and it's, like, super dramatic, and it ends with this big climax, and, like, this is just kind of like, he goes over to people's houses and they sing about how much they hate each other, and then he goes somewhere else and they do the same thing, and da 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 da, and then the end is the end. The end.
The end is the end. The end.
That's this show.
Do you feel like anything at all, aside from like the way that the score was sung, was changed by having Bobby be a woman? Like, negative or positive?
Well, other than what you mentioned, which is something I didn't really consider, but yeah, you're definitely right about that. It does kind of ruin that scene, especially.
And that's a big scene, like Ladies Who Lunch, one of the most iconic scenes in musical theater history, followed up by this scene where you have this proposition but doesn't land anymore. It makes no fucking sense anymore.
Like, take my husband.
Literally, it's so fucking stupid, and it bothers me. Like, this is mainly the reason why I want to do this, is because of how much that scene bothered me.
I'm glad you got your chance to rant about it.
Because Sondheim refused to make Bobby anything other than a heterosexual person.
But that kind of begs the question, though. What is with that 2006 version in that one gay panic scene?
Well, the gay panic scene has always been there. I'm very confused by that, too.
I don't remember it being in this one, in the 2021. Did they remove it?
Well, it wouldn't have made sense in it, but I know for a fact it was in the 2011 version, and I obviously don't have anything to reference from the 1970s, but I'm assuming it was there.
Honestly, that scene doesn't make any sense. That's probably one of the worst. That was probably the worst part of the 2006 one. It's just like, this guy is like, you want to go out with me? And he's like, nope.
All right, Andrew, do you want to go into the songs?
Yeah, I think that there's enough in the songs that we need to start talking about them. Let's talk about Company, which is a very good song.
I think that's a great opening number. Yeah. Like, not even just a song, but an opening number.
It's incredibly catchy as well, and like, it sticks with you. And it kind of is just like the theme for the whole show, which in this type of show, it's really good to have that because they keep coming back to it, and really it's just kind of skits that are really connected just by this song, essentially.
So Sondheim wrote this song as a representation of the overall theme of this. And when Bobby asks, what does he think the sound of like his life in New York is? He says, a busy signal. And I know that makes no sense to any of us, and I know it's been changed in the 2020 production as well to be something else. I forget what it was, but it wasn't a busy signal. But the way that they say Bobby is meant to replicate a busy signal. Bobby, Bobby, Bobby baby, Bobby booby. All that is meant to replicate that noise.
Yeah, which doesn't make any sense to me because I've never used a phone or whatever a busy signal's on.
Like, it's actually used it's a staccato pulse and repetitive sound. Like, it's annoying. Like, it's the way that it sounds when you get to the end of, like, someone who's on the phone already.
Which I think also is, it adds to the song, the tone of the show, and my interpretation of it, especially where the couples are essentially representing marriage in general, and they are annoying, and they will not stop.
They will not stop, and they're always interrupting you when you're doing something else.
Yeah, and it's just like, it gives you that feeling like, man, leave me alone. What if I just don't want to get married?
Is this our most cynical episode we've ever done?
It's a cynical show.
It kind of is, and I feel like not enough people talk about that final resolution. But we'll get to that.
It's a city of strangers. Some come to work, some to play. A city of strangers. Some come to stare, some to stay. And every day, some go away. Or they find each other in the crowded streets and the guarded parks, by the rusty fountains and the dusty trees with the battered barks. And they walk together past the postered walls with the crude remarks. And they meet at parties to the friends of friends who they never know. Will you pick me up or do I meet you there, or shall we let it go? Did you get my message? Cause I looked in vain. Can we see each other Tuesday if it doesn't rain? But I'll call you in the morning and my service will explain. And another 100 people just got off of the train. And another 100 people just got off of the train. And another 100 people just got off of the train. And another 100 people just got off of the train. Another 100 people just got off of the train.
I don't want to talk about things we've already talked about, so we're going to skip all the way to another 100 people.
Another 100 people. Which one was this?
I love this song. It's literally just Marta singing about like another 100 people coming off of the train and then onto the bus and then another 100 people. I fucking love this song.
Is this the character? Marta is the character that is the like goth girl. Am I wrong about that?
Yes.
Yeah, and she moved to the city because she wanted to be in the center of it all.
Right.
Yeah.
And the thing is, these songs don't reflect the characters that well. It's one of the few musicals where the content doesn't really dictate form in the way that Sondheim always says it does.
This song represents the character, I think, though.
Kind of, but not really.
A little bit. Not a ton.
It's more of a background piece where someone can sing this song.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I love this, and I feel like a good patter song for women is something pretty rare to find, and we've got like 5 of them in this musical alone.
Yeah, there's quite a few. And there's some pretty good songs just in general. Like, the songs make this show, and I think that is why
Honestly,
this show even is still being run at all. If this had,
I think that's the reason why this show has stood the test of time.
Like, because really, if you look at the plot and you look at all that and the themes, it's nothing.
Not a plot, really.
There's nothing special in this. I mean, there's plenty of shows that are about like failing relationships. We've covered like 4 of them already in our catalog, and it's like none of those shows really stand up like this one does, and that's just because of the music.
So, like, when you think of breakup musicals, because we've talked about a couple the last 5 years, of the first one that jumps to mind, and then, of course, last week's episode of The Bridges of Madison County.
Yep.
This one is the one that floats to the top?
Well, I think just musically, it's the only one that, like, I would listen to a song, and, like, I don't really care what it's about. I would just listen to the song because it sounds good.
And I think this is the only Sondheim musical that's like that. Like, you can't really pull a song out of Sweeney Todd.
I mean, I do.
Or you can't, though. Like, it only works with that story surrounding it. Like, if you take Epiphany out, that doesn't really work on its own unless you have the context of what it came before and what comes after.
I mean, the song is still really good, but...
Oh, it is. But, like, another 100 people coming from specifically Marta doesn't mean much.
Was there any pop hits from this? I would be shocked if there wasn't.
Oh, there was a ton.
I was going to say,
there was a ton.
The way that this is structured, it's almost begging for there to be pop hits, because it's like, it doesn't matter where this came from, you know? It's like, you could tell this story, you could reverse all the songs, and the story is still kind of told the same way. It doesn't really matter.
You can be my best friend. I can be your right arm. We'll go through a fight or two. No harm, no harm. We'll look not too deep. We'll go not too far. We won't have to give up a thing. We'll stay who we are. Right. Okay then. I'm ready. I'm ready now. Someone marry me a little. Love me just enough. Warm and sweet and easy. Just the simple stuff. Keep a tender distance, so we'll both be free. That's the way it ought to be. I'm ready, marry me a little. Body, heart, and soul. Passionate as hell, but always in control. Want me first and foremost. Keep me company. That's the way it ought to be. I'm ready. I'm ready now. Oh, gently we'll talk. Oh, how softly we'll tread. All the stings, the ugly things we'll keep unsaid. We'll build a cocoon of love and respect. You promise whatever you like, I'll never collect. Right. Okay then. I'm ready. I'm ready now. Someone. I'm ready.
What do you think of Marry Me a Little? The Act 1 closer.
Honestly, I don't remember this one that much, and I watched it twice.
This is one of those that has become a hit,
Really?
so to say. Like, this is sung by, like, big artists. Like, it is a popular song. It was written for this musical, then cut out, and then put back into more recent productions.
Okay.
And it's basically where he's like, marry me a little, love me just enough. Cry but not too often, play but not too rough.
It's just kind of a build-up to being alive, I guess, because he brings all of that back.
Yes, but this is his I Want song, or the closest thing we get to an I Want song, based on all the information he gets in Act 1.
Yeah.
And following his rejection from Amy, where he's like, how about we just get married? Like, I'll take care of you, you'll take care of me, it won't be a big thing. And he gets rejected. This is the first time we, like, actively see him get, like, big rejected.
Yeah, but was it a real rejection, though? Because was he really going to try to marry the bride on her wedding day?
I think he was. I think he's kind of a sociopath. That's the other thing about Bobby. I think he might... I think the big reason why he can't have significant relationships as like seen in the You Could Drive a Person Crazy is he doesn't have emotions. He is a Patrick Bateman.
Oh my god. I think you're reading way too far into this. I think Robert doesn't have emotions because he's an audience surrogate.
No, because they're like literally describe him as a zombie in their arms.
Yeah, maybe Sondheim's trying to say something about us.
We're all fucking horrible sociopaths.
Have I got a girl for you?
No, I don't want to talk about that.
I don't either.
Honestly, the next song I want to talk about is The Ladies Who Lunch, sung by Joanne. Really, Joanne sits out most of this musical. She says a couple lines in Act 1, and then she comes out with this big number, The Ladies Who Lunch, about, like, all the different
Just
women.
Just go into it. I know you want to talk about it. What do you got?
This is one of the most famous, like, musical theater songs ever. Originally performed by Elaine Stritch, it is sung by Joanne, and basically it's like, it mockingly judges the rich and wealthy women who waste their middle-aged lives doing nothing meaningful. It is an active critique of the rich white women that go to see this show. Like, and it is though, like, one of the greatest fun lyrics is like, clutching to a copy of life just to keep in touch.
Yeah.
Like, all these people that are just stuck inside doing whatever they want, where Joanne is actually out living, doing what she wants to do. And Bobby kind of like, yeah, that's what I want too. And it means a little more in the 2020 production when it's a woman. But it's ruined when she's like, oh, you want to marry my husband?
Yeah. And this is, I think this is the song that pushes it over the edge, and they realize that they don't want to get married because it sucks.
Kind of. Like, it shows, like, yeah, that isn't the way to go down. And all the songs leading up to that has shown that. This is the moment. Like, this is the 11 o'clock number, so to say. I know that Being Alive is technically the 11 o'clock number, but this is the moment where the choices are made.
Yeah.
Where the protagonist is seduced.
He's seduced by a lifestyle, but not by a person.
Exactly, and it is insane. Like, I know you don't love this musical, but the fact that there is this same song structure as any other musical, where you have the temptation and the acceptance of the temptation right afterwards, which leads right into Being Alive, which I am very curious to see your thoughts of this song, because I know you...
Being Alive is the best song.
You have your own... It is an amazing song.
It's the best song in the whole show. It's by far, in my opinion, I think it's way better than all of the other ones. Emotionally, it's the only one that really resonates for me.
But you have your own interpretation of the lyrics. Like, I know we've already talked about your interpretation.
To be honest, I don't even interpret the lyrics. I just listen to what is being musically thrown at me, and that's my thoughts of it.
I'm very curious what you think the meaning of this song is. I know you have your own opinion of the meaning of the ending, but what's the meaning of this song?
This song is Robert finally realizing that he does not want what the other people have, and the other people desperately trying to drag him back down into their depths.
Okay, so I'm imagining your interpretation of this song is like a man climbing from hell and demons are grabbing at his legs. Like, come on, Bobby, don't you know it's great? It's better than that. Add 'em up, Bobby, add 'em up.
Yep, that is my interpretation.
I mean, it is a valid point.
He finally grows his wings and flies out of this shit.
And where do you think Bobby goes from there? Like, what is Bobby's future after the song ends?
I don't really know. I think so. I mean, and this is like crazy far-fetched and ridiculous, but this whole show is like, the show itself is like a parody of marriage in general, like a satire. It's a satire of marriage. And Robert, in the end, is gone. He's no longer in the show. He has escaped the concept of marriage. He is transcended out of the musical, and he is no longer there. That's my interpretation.
Left the world of Company.
He has escaped the world that Company has created. The satire of marriage and relationships that Company exists as, and he is gone.
Oh my god! Oh no!
That's my...
He's cracked it! Do you think that's true in the 2020 version as well?
The 2020 version's not nearly as cynical, and I don't think it's as good. It's more fun to watch, but I feel like the themes don't really resonate because of how like fun and lively they make it. The themes that the 2006 version are putting out and the music really puts out are not there.
Can I also point out something else? And maybe this is just me pointing this out as like as a man who doesn't always notice it with men but always notices it with women. Bobby was sexualized a lot more in this musical, right?
Oh yeah, I mean they actually have like a legit like sex scene kind of thing.
He like takes off her panties and shit. She's like naked on the stage and he like eats her out. It's fucked up. Like you would never have that if Bobby was a male character.
I mean, I wouldn't mind a scene where Bobby's getting a blowjob on her.
getting his ass licked by another girl or something.
They didn't have that scene though in the 2006 one as far as I remember.
They have never had that explicit a scene before.
Yeah, that kind of stood out to me a bit. In my opinion, though, it feels like they were trying to be a little more, like, sexually open with it. Because, I mean, it's not like she... And I guess it depends how you look at it. The character themselves is not getting objectified. In fact, they're getting exactly what they want. I guess you could try to spin it as the actress is getting objectified in front of the audience of the show. So I guess it depends how you want to look at it.
Which is weird. But then again, I'm sure the director would be like, well, the guy's in his tighty whities too, so I guess it's even. But it isn't, though.
I mean, it depends how you want to look at it, though, because character-wise, she is able to show the sexual side and whatever, and she's getting gratification that she wants. But obviously, from the audience perspective, we're looking at a woman under bed sheets or whatever. But they don't really show anything, so I don't know.
Well, she's down to her underwear. Like, she takes off her big old one piece that she's in, and she's in like these like lacy panties and all that.
Yeah, but I mean,
weird. It feels unnecessary.
You're right and wrong and correct and incorrect.
I'm right and wrong and correct
and incorrect. So I'm gonna leave.
Like Bobby and all the other versions, we've never seen like anything like that.
Yeah, and I guess my thought would be, even if we did see that though, would it have mattered? Because technically he would have been doing that with a girl, and that girl would have been. I mean, if we reverse that scene literally,
equally objectified.
Yeah, if we
too.
reverse that scene literally, I mean, it would be worse because now there's a girl giving a guy a blowjob on stage in her underwear. I mean, right? So
well, it also is a power dynamic scene where, in the original musical where Bobby is a man, it is kind of awkward because he's just trying to get laid, basically.
Yeah.
And he's making up the story. Do you think that story he tells is real or fake?
Which one?
Where he's like, and then I couldn't remember the hotel's address.
Oh, no, that story's bullshit. In both versions, that story's bullshit. That didn't happen. Come on.
Yeah, but it is used as a tool to try to get people to have sex with you.
Also, in the 2020 version, like, come on. You couldn't find the hotel? Like, you have a phone with GPS. Come on.
Right.
Get out of here.
All right. But you know who could have found the hotel?
Our lovely patrons.
You're right. Thank you guys
and
for
I've been
listening.
waiting in this hotel for almost a year, and no one has shown up. So if you guys could find that hotel really fast, that'd be sick.
Thank you guys for listening. Andrew, what was your overall thoughts on Company and your cheese rating?
The music is really good. I like a lot of the themes, actually, and I like the critiques of marriage, though I think they feel a little bit like 1970s, and a little bit dated as far as, like, critiques of marriage go. These couples, a few of these couples feel like characters from a 50s sitcom. It's, like, ridiculous. And as far as the new version of it, where everything is gender switched, I think it works just fine. It's a little more fun, a little more lively. Though, to Jess's point, I mean, some of the stuff is a little bit worse, especially near the end.
Content-wise.
It's really not my cup of tea, but I think the music, it just carries the show heavily, and it definitely, it has enough great music in it that it does deserve to be remembered as, like, one of the best shows.
Mm-hmm. And how's this rank among your Sondheim rankings? Like, on the lower end, around, like, where does it fit?
To be honest, this might be the lowest, other than that short that we watched, the TV special.
Evening Primrose.
Although I'm trying to remember, was there another Sondheim that I was critical of? Because I don't no, this is above Assassins, I think, for me.
Okay. I mean, I'd put it above Assassins. Like, because earlier you were defending Assassins when I compared it to it.
Yeah, I think Assassins plot-wise is more interesting, and it's more interesting to watch because the characters are so out there and, like, crazy. Whereas in this one, the characters are crazy in, like, a Friends kind of way. It's like they're really not crazy. They don't get along, and it's kind of lame. But the music in this is just way better. There's so many more memorable songs.
Fair enough.
Okay, and cheese rating, I mean, what do upper middle class people in New York eat for cheese? The
brie.
Yeah, brie. We'll get that.
All right, so I'm more positive about the show than Andrew, but I understand everything that he's saying right here. But I really like the 2006 production. I think the dry humor works a lot more better than the broad humor. I think the 2020 production is very ambitious, and I appreciate a lot of the things it's trying to do, but it does kind of ruin a lot of the plot points from the original show in the translation of switching genders while keeping Bobby a heterosexual. I think that is an actively bad change, not because I think that Bobby shouldn't be a woman, because obviously that works, and vocally I think it works, and character-wise I think it works, and adds new dimension to the show because it means a lot more for a woman to be turning 25 than it does for a man, but also a lot of 35. It means a lot more for a woman to be turning 35 than a man, but, you know, you gotta weigh all those options, and overall I think that the show is quality. I think the songs were are like very high quality Sondheim, where basically every single one of these is top tier. Like, I don't think there's like an actively bad song, except maybe like, yeah, even looking at this, like the least memorable song is Sorry Grateful, and I still really like that song.
Oh, I think I didn't mention the humor in this is not up my alley at all either. There's like jokes that are aimed specifically at people who like live in New York. Like there's like, oh, they don't have emotions because they live in New York or whatever. It's like maybe for people that are seeing the Broadway show, they're from New York and they get that, and it's like, but like these recordings we were watching where like people, every time where people uproar in laughter, it's always like something
New York.
It's like, haha, New York. It's like, okay, yeah, I don't get it.
But my cheese rating is Asher Blue Cheese from the American Cheese Company. Company, lots of company.
Very cool.
All right. But thank you guys for listening. Please follow us on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, and Musicals with Cheese. We're on Broadway Podcast Network, and we're always so thankful to all of them because they are great people.
Absolutely
there.
excellent.
And I'm sure they've been very good to us so far. They haven't kicked us off yet, and we've said some shit. We're on Twitter at Cheesy Musicals. Our Patreon is Musicals with Cheese. Our YouTube page is Musicals with Cheese. Our Instagram page is Musicals with Cheese. Our email is musicaltheaterlives@gmail.com. Our title card was created by Jolene Casco. Follow her on Instagram at Jolene Casco. Andrew, is there anything else you want to say before we wrap this shit on up?
Do you think people will be allowed to have company when this comes out?
Probably not.
You think they'll still be locked down?
Yeah, we're still locked down. Enjoy not having company.
Hey, be grateful, because as far as I can tell, having company over is miserable.
Yeah, it just makes you want to never get married.
Yep. And just also be thankful that we don't live in an alternate reality where marriage always ends in disaster.
I mean, doesn't it always, though? Have you ever known a marriage to work out, like, perfectly?
Perfectly? No. Though I've also never had a married couple break out in jujitsu in front of me. So.
You're obviously not living. But you know what? Phone rings, door chimes, in comes nobody because we're under quarantine.
Very true.
No strings, good time, room hums, quarantine. Late nights, quick bites, party games, deep talks, long walks, telephone calls. The short.
Okay, you can stop.
Names, all
you can
those
stop.
photos.
Can we end this? Can we end this episode? Are we done?
That's what it's all about, isn't it? That's what it's really about. Really about. Okay.
Fair enough.
We'll see you next time on Musicals with Cheese.